This is Nick Williams with Temple of Geek, and today we are reviewing the Acolyte Episode 4 titled Day. This review will contain spoilers, so make sure you go watch the episode and then come back. Last week's episode was a flashback, but this week we are back to present day. We find Osha and the Jedi back on Coruscant in the Jedi Temple. Osha says goodbye to Jecki before she decides to leave. Because she's not a Jedi and has emotional ties to Mae, she doesn't feel she's right for the mission. That mission, of course, is to retrieve Mae and to find out more about Mae's master. At first, Vernestra Rwoh was not going to allow Master Sol to go on the mission because of his emotional ties to Osha and Mae. But Sol's plan is to use Osha to bring Mae in peacefully. Thankfully, Master Sol is able to catch up with Osha before she leaves. In this Jedi meeting, we actually have one of our first cameos, and that's Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. Ki-Adi-Mundi is on the Jedi Council in the prequel movies. This entire episode is about who can get to the Jedi Wookiee Kelnaka first. Is it going to be Mae and Kamir, or is it going to be Osha and the Jedi? Mae and Kamir get to the planet first, and he has actually been to this jungle before in order to help find Kelnaka. And as they trek through the forest, we actually find out more about Mae and the Master. Mae has made a deal with the Master. We're not sure exactly what that is, but we do know that if she does not succeed, he will kill her. We also find out more about what killing a Jedi without a weapon actually means. And the idea being is how to get a Jedi to betray their oath. How do you get them to try to kill an unarmed person? And we've actually seen this in future Sith with Darth Sidious trying to get them to go against their beliefs. But we still have actually no idea who the Master actually is. The Jedi also arrived to the planet and Osha is just a civilian. They're actually using a tracker in order to be able to find Kelnaka. Osha is very much doubting herself on this mission. She admits that to both Yord and Jecki. Yord seems to be the leader of this mission, and he is very uptight, very much a stick to the book. As annoying as that can be, he does soften a bit when he has a one-on-one conversation with Osha. There is a scene with Osha and the Jedi that is very reminiscent of the Clone Wars. As they're moving through the forest, there are some things wrapped around the trees. And of course, they sense danger and try to move through quickly. As they're doing so, Osha puts her hands on one of them and senses them. As she's moving on, it moves and scutters away. Of course, the thing that's wrapped around the tree becomes a very mean flying insect. Master Sol takes care of it with a lightsaber, and apparently it's attracted to light. Now this is where Mae's story begins to progress. As her and Kamir are running through the forest, she wants to take a break, and he goes off to find her water. As he's off to find water, Mae screams, and as he runs back, he gets caught in Mae's trap, which is a little rope wrapped around the foot, pulled up into the air, hanging upside down, trapped. This is when Mae confesses that she is going to betray the Master because she owes allegiance to her sister. So her plan is to turn herself in to Kelnaka, and she's going to exchange the information she has on the Master. But like anything in Star Wars, nothing goes according to plan. While this is happening, the Jedi did hear the scream and head towards that direction. As Mae's running towards Kelnaka's home, she falls and runs into the tracker, who sounds the alarm. Mae then bolts inside Kelnaka's home to find him. But what she finds is Kelnaka, dead, apparently slashed through the chest with a lightsaber. Outside, she hears the Jedi arrive, but that is also when she realizes her master is there. As the Jedi are calling for Mae to turn herself in, they sense a presence behind them. Behind Osha floats down the Master in his mask. He approaches Osha and easily force flings her to the side. Then we get this shot we've seen in the trailers with all the Jedi pulling out their lightsabers. The Master has already revealed a red lightsaber. As the Jedi start to run at the Master, he easily force pushes them all backwards, and that's when the episode ends. That's where it ended. And now for my full review. First off, ending the episode right there and having us wait a week to find out what happens is going to be unbearable. This is the first episode that I can say I truly enjoyed. The first episode was just okay for me. Second episode got better. Third episode was just okay. But this one I truly enjoyed. I do feel like this is a transitional episode. This is a setup to the next chapter. I felt like the first 3 episodes told their arc, and now we're starting a new arc in this whole story. In fact, this episode made me switch which characters I'm actually enjoying most. At first, I liked Osha more than Mae, but now that has actually switched where I actually like Mae's character better. I think there is good in her, and I find her story really starting to blossom. Where I actually feel Osha is still more stuck as a character. I think that will change, but for right now, I like Mae better. Yord is still a pain and is still annoying. There are sweeter moments that he has, but it takes a lot to soften him. I do hope that changes, and I do hope when we start to reveal more things and that his ideas of the Jedi are challenged, that he's able to turn around the corner as far as his character is concerned. I know Vernestra Rwoh from the High Republic books, and right now her character in the show versus her younger character in the books don't quite line up for me. One breath of fresh air for this show is that it has not been cameo heavy. Now, this episode was very short, so we got small nuggets, and I think those nuggets were enough for me to really enjoy this episode, although there's still so much to explore. The nuggets in this episode were mostly about Mae and the Master. We found out a lot more about that relationship and that dynamic, and I think the complaints that people had in the first couple episodes are now starting to come to fruition as far as what a lot of this means. Like the whole idea of killing a Jedi without a weapon. What does that actually mean? Because people were debating on the fact that you can kill the Jedi without a weapon, but others thought that it meant more, which in this episode we actually find out it means more. Some of the complaints online have been about this show breaking canon, but of course it is too early to tell. We have a dark side user with a red lightsaber. That's all we know so far. We don't know where this show is going to go or how it's going to conclude or who actually survives. Now, one thing we don't have confirmed is whether or not this dark side user with a red lightsaber is Sith. Now, one of the very surprising things in this episode is that we find Kelnaka dead. So far, we've had Indara and Kelnaka very briefly before they just perish. And of course, we're going to get them more in flashbacks, but it's one of those things where there were characters that I wanted to explore, but now we're going to have to explore them in a flashback. So that part is frustrating, but I understand it because of the narrative that they're trying to tell. One thing the show has done very well is the cinematography from the very first episode. There's been some wonderful sweeping shots. The flow of the writing has been very inconsistent in this show for me so far. This one felt right because it was also a very simple episode. It was very much directed one way. And because of that linear focus, we had very much Clone Wars moments. After the first 3 episodes, I was honestly very lukewarm with this show. I wasn't really sure if it was going to be able to deliver or turn the corner. But I do feel like this episode helps this show start to turn the corner. Now, I can't say for sure if they're going to stick the landing, but this episode gave me hope. There are certain mysteries that I'm looking forward to finding out. Of course, the Master. We're going to find out more about the Master, but Sol seems to have more to tell Osha that we will hopefully find out later, because honestly, I'm getting tired of people perishing before we find out information. I do hope Yord has better character development as we move along, because right now he is still a bit insufferable. The dialogue for me is definitely much improved in this episode. However, I will say when it comes to Osha, the constant asides of like, I'm doubting myself or I'm unsure of myself is a little more than we need. Now, the fact that Osha is starting to connect back with the Force and connect back with creatures does give me some hope for that changing. But it's one of the reasons why I'm preferring Mae over Osha right now, because Mae feels like she starts to have a clear direction now, where Osha is still wavering. I know we're exploring the dynamics of the Jedi and the transitional period between the High Republic and the prequel era. The Jedi in this episode are very, by the book, kind of uptight. And I think we're going to have the Jedi more challenged, and I'm hoping that comes out a little bit more, because right now it feels like they're more cops than Jedi. Which, of course, I know is the point, but right now I don't think it's really been dealt with. We saw it a lot in episode 3. And of course, we're only halfway through, so we have the Master confronting the Jedi already, which I'm excited about because now the rest of the season isn't as predictable. We've seen most of what has happened in the trailers. Thank you for joining me, and let us know what you thought in the comments, but I do want to say one thing before we wrap up. There has been a lot of discourse online the last couple weeks, but with that, there has come a lot of hate. And I don't mean just hate for the show itself. I mean terrible comments full of hate towards others that aren't like yourself. We here at Temple of Geek are here to give you an honest, open review. So valid critiques and constructive criticism are welcome, but hate is not. We will not tolerate that kind of talk in the comment sections. So please be respectful to your fellow fans. That being said, again, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We will see you here next week for episode 5 of The Acolyte. May the Force be with you.